And we are back, dude. Like, I just gotta say, I keep talking about this, but, it's kind of hard not to, since, for like 3 years I've been making podcasts with people, and now I'm suddenly not doing that. But, one good thing about making podcasts on your own, you can make podcasts freaking whenever you want. Like, I'm just like, here, I think it's 9 o'clock right now. I'm like, actually, I want to make a podcast right now, and here I am. I don't have to wait. I don't have to like schedule. I don't have to like wait, hope that someone isn't busy or something. I could just make it. So I'll probably have the freaking episodes for freaking weeks. At this freaking rate, maybe I need to start doing multiple episodes a week. Who knows? This is freaking crazy. But I was just thinking to myself, as I do, because I'm always thinking. And I was just like, I always talk about how easy it is to make a freaking cult, and I don't know what that says about me, but I'm always kind of thinking about how easy it is to make a cult. But I was like, you know what? Let me make a podcast sharing some wisdom, which, it's kind of positive actually, but how to make a freaking cult and ultimately, rule the freaking world. Because, your cult's going to get to your cult's going to get to a point that's so big that you rule the world, but to a point where everyone just loves you. And they're like, you know what? This person's amazing. And, I was thinking about stuff, how certain people, say, have cult followings, or, how cults start in the first place. So let me just, as a, introductory of, creating your own cult, let's give a brief history of Johnstown. And, I'm not going to give like a whole freaking podcast about what Johnstown was about, but I'm just going to point out some certain things. So I'm not giving like a full blown history. I'm just giving my, summary and pointing out certain things that probably is a thing that is common with cults, common with like the beginnings of, say, mafias, beginning of gangs, beginning of like any type of form of power that is a group that, kind of ends up being bad. Like even dictatorships, maybe. I'm not fully sure about that one, but, So I'm going to start with Johnstown because that's a simple a simple example that I know a fair amount about, because I was reading a Wikipedia article a while back, a whole Wikipedia article. Then I watched some documentary about it. So I kind of know about it. I'm not going to say I'm an expert, but, I know enough to get by. So Johnstown started as, this random dude. He was from some southern Midwestern state. I don't know what. Some Midwestern. I know it's fairly close to California since they moved there, but maybe it was Indiana. It could have been Indiana, but just dudes from, small town, typical, he was some crazy kid, he killed freaking cats and crap, like in his spare time. He had an obsession with death and, stuff like that, but that's kind of irrelevant. So, he had an interest in the church, and who knows why. It could have been like just the idea of community. It could have been the idea of, how the pastor, everyone looks up to him and asks him for wisdom or whatever. Maybe he had a certain type of, connection to that and wanted to be like that. But, he had a connection to that. And, I think he had a connection to a lot of black pastors too, because, how they were so different from the normal church, or say like how a Catholic priest is kind of, I would say, more boring, while, maybe a black pastor has more energy with it when he's, giving his sermons and stuff like that. So he kind of took inspiration from that. And at some point he had his own church. And this is the beginning of how a cult starts. In the beginning, it was very, it was a good idea. It was an actual good idea. He really helped out his community. People loved him. He did great things. Like, for example, here's just one example of one great thing he did. He had this whole little thing about the elderly. He gave them free housing, free food, free everything. He kind of took care of the elderly. So more, people wanted him, people who wanted to care for their parents, they searched for Pastor Jones. That was his name. His name was Jones. That's why it's called Jonestown. But, they went for Pastor Jones because Pastor Jones took care of the elderly. He took care of his people. It was all good, all well. And then, he was he had an interracial church. Some people hated that because, people were racist back then. But they were like, he was like, I don't care what you guys think. These are my people. I take care of them. Good person. If you heard him now, before the whole cult crap, you'd be like, dang, this is a good guy. I want to be part of that church, because that's how the church was. It was a good thing. It was a good thing. It helped his community, helped his people. He was a good person. And he moved on. They moved to California because, Indiana or wherever they were from was too racist. And, California had this, better opportunities. So they moved there. And they created their own little town and everything. Well, not full blown town, but they created their own little community there. And it was great. It was, people loved it. There's nothing wrong with it. I think it was in a couple news articles. This great person came here, help our people, blah, blah, blah. It started out as a great thing. But the problem, how most cults change, is, of course, when the leader starts getting a little too much of that power, too much of a control over his people, and it goes to his head. Because I think what happened, what I personally think is what happened, it was when he started looking for more people. I think he started doing these little trains of these bus trains, Greyhound bus trains or whatever. And he started taking these buses around the country to get more members. And, people loved him, started joining. And, it started going to his head. When he started getting more and more people, he started realizing how much control, how much love he had in these people, where they would do almost anything for him. Because in some ways, some of these people, he saved their life. So they feel indebted to him. So, they'll do almost anything for him. And I think that started going to his head, where he's like, dang, these people will do anything for me. And then the next shift was when he started using them to do anything for him. For example, I'm pretty sure at first he started going to certain great things. Like I think for Vietnam War, one of these wars, or maybe a civil rights or something like that, they had protests and he would bring his people to these protests. And suddenly, say some small little protest about the Vietnam War that had 10 people, now it has 200 because he brought his whole church to it. And, politicians start seeing that. And they're like, dang, we could take advantage of that. So they started, I don't know, paying him, but, they started asking for favors of him to do it. And, same thing happened. A political speech for mayor of blank town. At first, it only has 2 people. Now it has 200, and now it's on the news. So he started taking advantage of that, doing that for people. And when he did that, of course, he got favors of these politicians. So he had some type of seat for some city. I don't remember what the seat was, but, at that point, you already know he's corrupted. There's no returning back from that. Once you do that type of crap, you're done. Your brain is not going to rewire itself to be a good person. It's already corrupted. So, at that point, he started becoming more suspicious of stuff. I forgot what the reason was, but I think it was after Martin Luther King died, got assassinated, and Malcolm X got assassinated. He started becoming really suspicious, and he was always this kind of lover of communism, and that's a big no for America. But he loved communism and all this, and he had an obsession with certain type, which brings you back to why he wanted to become a pastor. But he had an obsession with certain type of leaders, like say Mao Zedong, say Stalin, say I forgot who this one pastor was, this black pastor who had this control over his people and stuff. But he had obsession over that type of things, and he had suspicions. He had these real crazy conspiracy about the government's going to try to assassinate me, blah 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 blah. So he always had these random things, and he was doing crazy. And this is I'm flip flopping, but still he also messed with his. But we already know he started getting corrupted, and he started doing crazy stuff kind of raping his people, the women and even the men. He would ask for sexual favors from the men, and stuff like that, crazy stuff. But then he would have all these weird hypocritical things oh, my people aren't supposed to have sex because sex is evil, and blah 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 blah. But then he would ask for sexual favors of his people, stuff like that. So he's already corrupted, kind of things. And then basically at some point this stuff started coming out, and he was afraid of the news publishing that he's a freaking madman. At this point, he's not this amazing person. So that's when he moved everyone to Guyana? No, not Guyana. Or maybe it was Guyana. Guyana? I think that's how it's pronounced. Guyana or Guyana. One of those two. He moved to that country, literally abruptly, right before the news article came out that, showing that there were some people who escaped from his grasp and, wanted to show this person is a terrible person. He's corrupted. He's, this. So he moved everyone out to Guyana. And, that's when the whole Johnstown stuff happens, blah, 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 blah. He has his own community that he is in charge of. Of course, he's corrupted because it's this whole community that he's in charge of. And then a senator came over to, hear about or to learn about this place because, it's interesting that, these people just moved out here to make their own communist community or whatever. And so he went to learn about them. He was like, wow, this is an amazing place because apparently right before he came, they knew he was coming. The senator was coming. Pastor Jones was like, okay, we got to make everyone, look like they're happy. So he purposely had everyone, partying, having fun, blah, blah, blah. So when the senator came, he's like, wow, this is a nice place. Wow, amazing. This is a great place. So he made this whole speech about, like how this is one of the greatest places in the world. This is, I don't know what the news articles are saying, blah, 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 blah. But then right before he was leaving, one of the people who were there, one of the, what do you call them? One of the, not enslaved, the people who were part of that town who wanted to leave, but they couldn't because, the typical cult type stuff. You can't, once you're in, you can't leave kind of thing. Or if you want to leave, then you're going to get called out and then bad things happen to you. So he tried to pass him a note, but then passed the senator a note to, tell him that, please take me out of this place. But one of the kids ratted him out. He's like, oh, he's passing notes. He's passing notes. Because, that whole the teaching has got all the way into the kids, where the kids will even rat out their own parents because, that's all they've been taught. So he was ratted out. And finally, the senator's like, what? Wait, what? He read the note, the note saying all this stuff, like how he wants to leave, but he can't. He wants to see his family again, but he can't, blah, 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 blah. And then he was like, of course, confused because it seemed like everyone was happy. And then once that happened, the floodgates just burst open. Now, more and more people are running to the senator, asking to, take them with him. Take me with you. I want to leave. I want to be with my family again. And, he has us trapped here. And then he's like, wow. So he was going to take some of these people. And he asked Pastor Jones, he's like, so is this true? He's like, no, it's not true. They can leave whenever they want, blah, 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 blah. So, he was like, okay, then I'm going to take them with me, take some of these people with me, and, maybe get more planes to bring some more people back or something like that. So, he right before they're going to walk back to the airport, and right before they went on the airplane, Pastor Jones told one of his, the security people of his little encampment, he's like, I guess he was like, we gotta silence them. We can't let this get out. So they are all in a truck with guns, follow the people to the airplane, and just start shooting. Boom, 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 boom. The senator dies. A couple of, I think the pilots died. One of the news crew died. Of course, a lot of the people who wanted to leave with him died. There were a couple survivors, but right after that happened, then Pastor Jones comes to his people, like, we're in trouble now. They're not gonna let us get away with this. So, we gotta all kill ourselves. We gotta do a revolutionary suicide. Some bull crap like that. But he's like, the crazy part is like, that's not those people's fault. That was all you, Pastor Jones. It wasn't them. But he can't die alone because typical. He's like, I can't put the blame all on me. I gotta give it to everyone else too. You guys are all included, even though they're not. You're all included. So that's when the whole don't drink the Kool-Aid, because he kind of mixed cyanide and all this stuff inside these fruit pouch packages or whatever you call them. Like the basically Kool-Aid, but it's not actually Kool-Aid. It's one of those mixes, those off-brand mixes. But that's where the term "don't drink the Kool-Aid" comes from, because he mixed all these poisons with these Kool-Aid packets and forced everyone to drink. All the children, all the men, all the women, forced them all to drink. And he made sure they drank because he had security all around with guns. And if they didn't try to, I guess, drink, he would kill them anyway. So they had to drink. And, people are dying. Mothers are seeing their children die in their own arms. Fathers are seeing their wives die, seeing their kids die. Wives seeing their husband die. It's a mess. It's just terrible. And there are a couple survivors, but that's basically, Johnstown. So why did I tell you all this? Why did I give you this huge freaking history lesson of Johnstown? And the reason why is because, this craziness all started because in the beginning, it was a good thing. It was a great place in the beginning, and then it shifted. So, you always think you would think cults are bad from the start. I can't believe people would join cults. But a lot of the times these cults, they're not culty when they start or when they join, or, it doesn't look like a cult when they join. So, that's the thing. A lot of these people join a good cause, but the cause shifts into a crazy one. So, ironically, one of the best ways to make a cult is to start out good. You can't start out bad already, and no one's going to be brain dead and just join your craziness. You got to start out good. But the thing is, a lot of these cults, they run dry of members because they start going crazy, and people are like, I'm not joining that crap because I see that you are doing crazy stuff. So you're just stuck with your original members, the people who joined when it was good. So the obvious thing is to not turn back. You got to just keep, which is the hardest part. Admittedly, that's the hardest part for some people. But, you got to stay good. You got to stay at that level where people would want to join because it's a good cause. So once you stay at that point, you're going to keep growing members. And this is when I say you shift, to the rule the world thing. Because, okay, you already know how to start a cult, kind of. Well, I gave a brief, I'm not going to tell you exactly what to do. Because, I'm not going to do that. What the heck? I mean, I know, but I'm not going to tell you. But, basically have a good cause, have a good message, which requires money. It requires a lot of money. So, I would guess you would have to be either rich or, which is why a lot of these cults are religious, because in a lot of these religious communities, you give the money to the church. So you get this free passive income of money without working too difficultly. But still, you need money with your good cause. And then people want to join to support that cause. But how do you shift to the world? Because, you can only go so much. And that's where I get you to cult personalities, people with cult followings and stuff. Say Elon Musk. Elon Musk is not that great of a person. I mean, I don't like him still. Elon Musk is not that great of a person, but he has this cult following. And you might be asking, how does he have this cult following? And, I want a cult following. Well, of course, it requires money. So that's why, you either have to already be rich, already have your cult, or already have your fans who are, adamant about you. So you need one of those three. And after you have that, you just have to you can't, the reason, say Elon Musk, the reason why his cult following is a cult following is because he is different from the norm of a rich person. He kind of, does what he wants in a way. Like, he will just fund something stupid, like, the satellite crap. Like those satellites, he was like, I want to put satellites in the air for broadband. There's all these great ideas. So people are like, wow, this is amazing. For once, someone is doing something right. A rich person is, helping out the world or something. And he just does it. Even though it's not funded or anything, he just does it. And people are impressed by that. So, I mean, that requires money, but still. So you have to do these kind of out of the normal type things. You can't be like say someone who wants to, say Trump, for example. Trump was not your usual politician, and people loved that he wasn't usual. I wouldn't say he was like, the common man, but the way he just said whatever he wanted, people were what would you say? People were, I guess, impressed. People just put themselves in his shoes, and not put themselves in their shoes, but they saw themselves in him. And so when his victories happen, their victories happen because they're like, that's me if I was rich. How he just doesn't care, how he blah 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 blah. So, and it's the same with Elon Musk. People look at him, it's like, dang, that's who I want to be if I were rich. So in a way, you have to have the personality of the common man in a way, while still being in this position of power. You can't act like someone who, like the typical person in power. And then not only that, you have to have that type of confidence in your personality in a way. Like how Trump is a perfect example of this. Trump just doesn't care. He's going to keep acting like how he acts. Now, the problem with Trump is that, the way he was acting is not a way that is perfect for like the whole country. And that is a difficult thing to do. Like, have that personality that works for both sides of the coin. Because Trump's side, he was perfect for the right, but he was not at all perfect for the left. And that's why he couldn't become this cult personality for the entire US. And say with, and then, it's always these like certain things with these people who have a potential to become like, these cult, like almost cult leaders or super cult followers. Say, Elon Musk. Elon Musk had that I wouldn't say personality, but he had that money and that vision to do crazy stuff that, everyone wishes that they could do if they were rich. Like, have a rocket company. Make a freaking car company that's, innovative and just, does crazy stuff, has all these big visions. But say Elon Musk, he is too, I would say there are two things that Elon Musk does. One, Elon Musk uses that marketing too much, like where he markets himself, or even if it's not him, even though I'm pretty sure 100% a lot of it is him. Say Reddit comments, all this stuff, like where Elon Musk just is talked about everywhere, and it gets annoying. And I think that's a problem. You can't have you can't market yourself too much to the point where it's annoying. But the second thing I think, say Elon Musk, because even though that's just people like me who don't like Elon Musk. So, that I would say that's not a majority. That's like a large minority, but it's not like, most people were okay with Elon Musk before the Bitcoin incident. But what happened with the Bitcoin stuff is that he got too confident in his popularity. And that's what you cannot do. Because in a way, he's now testing out like, oh, what can I get away with? What can I do to what will my followers not do? And that's almost at that Johnstown type thing. You can't do that. You can't start doing like, oh, what will people not do? Like he tweets random stuff, which will affect, say, the Bitcoin market just crazily. Like, and he does it on purpose. He might find it funny that he can just say like dog, and then doggy coin will go up. Like, who wouldn't find that funny or cool if you had that type of like following that you could just affect the whole market by just typing dog? Like, that's funny. But to have a cult following, you cannot do that. Well, to have like, when you're trying to work your way up to the cult, like freaking ruler of the world type level. So as summary, once you have that cult, to get more members or to get to that global stage, you have to have that type of personality of the common man. You can't act like some freaking cocky douchebag who's like, yeah, this is how we're gonna do things, and be like, some cocky douchebag, like, a typical, say, politician. Or you can't, but you also have to not get not corrupted, but not take advantage of the followers in a way where it's like cocky. So that those are two difficult things to do, though. Is that you have to have the right personality that works for both sides of the coin, and you can't get corrupted by that, like where you're like, you just feel like you can just do stuff with your followers. So ironically, the best way to have that personality, you have to have that type of goodness in you. You have to keep that goodness in you that you had from the start, and you can't get corrupted by that same money or that power, which is ironic. For you to get that full position of power, you have to not want the power in a way, but still. So let's say you have those two things. You have the cult and you have that personality. So then more people will keep wanting to like you, and you are not corrupted by that power. Where once you get to that like more higher positions, you're not like taking advantage of your followers. Once you get to that, you're basically done. You're literally basically done, because people, when people believe that someone is doing something entirely from the good of their heart, and they're doing good things and big changes, people will do anything for these people. Like, they'll do literally anything, because in a way, they put them, like I said before, they put themselves in you, and they see themselves in you. So what your victories are their victories, because they're like, dang, that's me if blank, blank, blank. And they'll defend you, because you even say, well, even with crazy, like bad, like cult personalities or cult followings, like say BTS, or, well, I'm not gonna say they're bad, but you know what I mean. Like say BTS or freaking people who love Tesla or love, artists like say Taylor Swift or Beyonce or blah, 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 blah. They will defend them to the end of the earth. Like, even if they did, let's just say they did something crazy bad, they're still defending them, because in a way you're like, this is me, like this is a part of me. And if you're being like aggressively, like, what's the word? What is the word? I always forget the word. Right in my middle of my freaking flow. Like if you're being aggressive towards them about what they did, that is like you're being aggressive towards me now, because this is, in a way, that is a piece of me that you're being mean to. So I can't allow that. So once you have you have like the defense, you have the attack, you have everything, and then the more fans you have, of course, the better it gets. But remember, the more fans you have, the more likely you are to be manipulated to use that power. Even though you have the power to have more power, the more power you get, the more likely you are to lose it, because you're going to slip up, and depending on that slip up, that could be end times for you. So that's literally it. Once you're at that thing, that's just a a perpetual motion machine or whatever, where you just keep getting more and more energy. That energy gives you more energy, and you just keep going. And if you had that type of personality where you're not going to get corrupted, which is difficult. I don't even know if there's anyone. I don't even know if I could do it. I mean, I'm gonna say it. Maybe. I don't know though. Because you have to have that in the back of your mind, knowing that like each action needs to not be a corrupted one, which is difficult. I don't even know if everyone's gonna slip up with something, maybe. But once you get that, the world is yours. Literally, the world is yours. Now, this freaking Oh my gosh. Anyway, now the difficult thing, I would say, is figuring out what this message is going to be, like to even start out that cult. And honestly, I would say you have two choices. One is easier than the other in the beginning. One is harder than the other for to do it. Like, they're both hard. They're both really, really difficult to do. I'm not going to say exactly what stuff, because, you know, I don't know exactly what, you know, you got to put some of your freaking ideas in that one. But basically what I'm saying, the two easiest things is one, the obvious, religion. If you can figure out like some type of new religious type of idea that, you know, people really like, or people really want to believe, really want to follow, and it could still be Christian. It could still be like, you know, it could still be a part of a normal religion. Like, say Johnstown, that was a Christian cult, technically. I think it was. I don't remember. But still, you know, it still had the, you know, religious in it. It wasn't like some brand new religion. Even with the what is the one with the aliens? Freaking, I forgot what it's called, but the alien cult. That one was, you know, it was a mix of Christianity and aliens. So, you know, they weren't remaking the wheel. They were just kind of modifying it. But then the second way, because, well, let me just say, the religious one, it allows you to have a following and a devoted following. And it might be technically quicker and cheaper to do that one, because, you know, you're not like creating something new, and, you know, you're basically just talking for the religious one, and you're just kind of, you know, influencing them to trust you more and more and more. But the problem with that is that one kind of, it starts off, it rises up quick, and then I feel like you'll start to run out of members in a way, because, you know, there are all these other religions who kind of won the game already. So it's like, you're not going to like switch a devoted super Christian into coming into your freaking alien prophecy religion, like, unless you're like really good at freaking convincing people. And, you know, that's like God level type stuff. Like, you are like, you could probably convince them to do anything at that point. You can really convince a super devoted person to believe in some super change in their religion. But that's one way. The second way, though, is difficult to start off, but I feel like that one will allow you to have more leverage later on for more people. And that, sadly, is to be rich in a way. And not just be rich. You have to be rich creating products that people already love. And let's just say Steve Jobs was still alive and iPhones were not expensive. And let's say he just kept doing like philanthropy, whatever, you know what the word, freaking philanthropy type stuff. He kept doing like, or when I say kept, like, let's say he started doing that. He had Apple, which is a super successful business. Let's say he's using Apple funds to do like, you know, crazy things, world changing things. And he keeps doing it from, just makes it look like it's the good of his heart, and keeps doing it. You know, you can't fund it. People who really love Android but hate Apple, they see like he's doing this, you know, super good stuff. It's like, you can't really hate that. What's bad about that? You know, he's doing good things. So you keep working your way up. People love you more and more. And that's when you gotta flip. You gotta switch to something else. And say you're, let's just say you're like, I want to run for, let's just say president. You want to run for president. You will be voted in if you were doing all that stuff before. If you're doing this good stuff before, you'll be voted in, blah, 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 blah. But see, the problem with this one, well, the problem with ruling the world type thing is that you literally have to be a good person. Like, there's no way that you could be a terrible person and then rule the world. Like, that's just not possible. It's just not possible at all. So that's why it's like almost an impossibility for someone to rule the world, because you have to keep being a good person to the point where literally everyone loves you. And that's not, I don't even know that, like, if there is a person in the world who could do that right now. But who knows? But yeah, if you worked your way up to president, kept doing these good ideas, let's just say you were like a 10 out of 10 quality president. Like, people loved you as president. People would start, you know, and they would vote you in for the next 8 years. And let's just say, like, this is in this fairy tale type level, but still, you know, I mean, ruling the world is fairy tale type level, but still, let's say you get your next 4 years, 8 years as president. People love you. You have like barely any of these controversial things. People love you. You're doing so much for the country. You're, you know, helping out the people low, especially people low. Like, who cares about the people up? Like, they're in the minority. You want to keep getting that majority of people keep voting for you, because the rich can hate you as much as they want. But if you have that majority below who love you, what can they do? what, assassinate you, then they're assassinated. They're not. No one's gonna let that get away with if people like love you like that. So. And then even better, if you somehow made it work for both, I don't know if that's even possible, but let's just say you made it work for both, then you basically have that whole country to yourself. And after those 4 years are done, people are going to start wanting you to run for longer. And who knows? Let's just say, who knows? If people love you enough, I wouldn't doubt it, they would start like doing some weird little freaking like switcheroos with the Constitution or whatever, make you run even longer. But let's just say, you know, the people really kept following the Constitution. They're like, sorry, we got to let you out, but you're the best person ever. You think one of these other countries aren't going to see what you did over there and not want you to be part of their country now? They're going to be like, people are going to be running. Say one of these countries that prime minister or whatever. I don't know how that works, but I'm pretty sure you don't have to be a resident. Because wasn't there, like, after Obama was done with his presidency, like France was like, oh, you could run for prime minister here if you want it. But let's just say you just kept going, and there's some bug buzzing on the freaking screen. Jeez, it's the loudest mess. I freaking hate bugs. But let's say you did it. You kept running, and you ran for France, and France loved you. Then you're good at. But I keep saying it's that fairy tale level, but still, let's just say this person just keeps doing it. He's done with France. He moves on to freaking. Let's just say he does it for Japan. Somehow he learns that he's fluent in Japanese. Actually, Japan freaking loves him because they heard about what he did in freaking America and in freaking France. So now they're like, you gotta help us too. And then at some point, you know, at some point, if you're really that great, where you're just making things work, or at least making people love you. Like, let's say nothing's really changing, but people love you. At some point, it might not be official, but you'll get some type of unofficial, like level of power for the entire world, like where people respect what you say. Like you can go to a freaking war zone and just be like, stop, like what, just stop, and they'll stop because they're like, dang, this is freaking the dude who did all this stuff. He freaking fixed our world, or at least everyone loves him somehow. Like you're gonna be an unofficial king of the world. What you say makes things change. But the ridiculous and crazy part about it is that to get to that level, you have to be the greatest person ever. You cannot corrupt for a second, but most people corrupt by that time. But if you didn't, and you just kept doing it, whole world's yours. And who knows? You might not even be unofficial. I don't know. People, one thing I'll say, if people love you, they will put you at God status completely. Look at a lot of these cult members, like before they got corrupted, they were at God status. And that's when he corrupted, because he got God status for this small little amount of people. For what? Like, oh man, I got 200 people who really, really love me, so I'm going to already start being a monster. Now, and then imagine if you didn't corrupt once you were at God status of the world. Imagine. Unheard of, though. Unheard of. I don't know. I mean, I feel like I could do it, but I bet everyone thinks that they can do it. But who knows? But yeah, that's my longest podcast yet, actually. Well, longest solo podcast, 36 minutes. Pretty good. That's almost 40 minutes. But that's about it for how to rule the world. Basically, be a rich person or have a lot of money. Don't get corrupted, and keep moving up. You can't just stop. Like, you can't just say you made it the president and then you just stop. You're like, oh man, I did my 8 years, I'm done. Like, no. You got to keep going. If you want to get to that level of power, of course. But yeah, that's about it. I guess I'm going to do that abrupt stop because I don't know how to end